recording this here. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and play the video. It's important to pay attention to which is a boundary crossing and which is a violation. That's mainly the questions on your test. So pay close attention on trying to figure out which is a crossing and which is a violation. Okay.
We can't hear it.
You can't hear it? Well, that's not nice. I wonder why it's not. Let's see if there's something I need to do here. I should be able to play. Ah. I'm gonna have to send you guys the link to the video, and you guys will get to watch it, because it's not going to do any good for me to play it if you guys can't hear it. So
you have a link posted on
Yeah.
the e-supplement. I've already watched it.
Yeah, same here.
well, cool. Did you figure out which is a violation and which is a crossing?
So like
Accepting the
having
money.
coffee with your patient's spouse is a crossing, and a violation would be actually going ahead and continuing the extracurricular relationship.
That would be a violation, huh?
Yeah.
I had a nurse that actually married the husband of one of her patients that died from cancer. Would that be a crossing or a violation?
Violation.
Yeah, I think so. So yeah, so when you take the test, let me see if I can get in there. Where is it? I don't have it up here.
Hey Dan, while you're navigating, I had a question.
Okay.
If we're struggling to get all our hours in for the week, being primarily online, what do you recommend us doing, like the EHR and the health assessment, just tinkering around with that a bunch?
Health assessment. Get on the health assessment and start doing the different sections. Try to do the ones for that week. I know we don't have any, don't think we have any up yet, but I think they come in on week 3 as far as that goes. But you can get in and play around with the different sections in the assessments. I wouldn't go into the virtual challenge. You can do the nurse communicator. Yeah, anything on nurse touch would be okay. Anything if you get bored with the health assess, then I'd go into the nurse touch and what was the other one? Oh, the communicator. You can. Yeah. Well, that all comes up on the, yeah.
Probably a bad question, but we're supposed to have a certain amount of hours a week.
Yes.
Approximately 12.
Supposed
It's
to
on
have,
the outline, I think.
let me get rid of this somehow. How do I get rid of that?
It's 12 a week about, and I think it adds up to, I don't know, 133 hours.
It's 130 hours total. I don't
So
know
it's
how to get this
12
up.
a week.
Oh, it's 112 hours total. Hey, there everybody is.
So last week on our timesheet, it should have had 12 hours.
You should from now on, you probably should have at least 12 hours through week 6 and into 16 from week 7 to week 10 is 16 hours.
And you're okay with us working those hours into each week after, say we've only got, I don't know, 7 or 8 hours on our first week. You're okay with us adding those on to each week?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's fine. It's just by the end of week 10, you have to have 130 hours.
So we're not being graded necessarily on having 12 hours each week then?
Correct.
We just have to have them done by graduation?
No, by the end of the quarter.
Or, okay.
Yeah, to go on to the next term, you have to have 130 hours in.
I don't think it says that on the outline.
Yeah, it doesn't. It was on another class that it said how many hours we had to have.
We spoke about it last time we met on Zoom about how many hours we needed and approximately how many hours that comes out to each week.
I forgot about the fact that the last one.
I have one more question, Dan. The
Okay.
ebook, I didn't see the time that it, like, you know how ATI automatically records your time, but the ebook, when I was using my tablet, it had me download a ATI Go app, and then I was just recording my own time. Is it supposed to record my reading time?
It doesn't. We've gone through and assigned times, so you just get a flat time for those,
Oh, okay.
for different ones.
And we won't be.
Do you happen to have a list of that so that we can put it in our time logs?
Sure.
How about if we type that up for you guys and post it up?
I'll put it under week 1 references. And we'll do
Thank you,
that
guys.
today.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. We'll send,
But take a picture of your little quiz question. You know, picture and post that.
I don't know about anyone else, but I can't hear anything.
Yeah, no, I can tell she's talking, but I can't hear what she's saying.
Yeah.
Sorry, not apparently close enough to the microphone. So
Yeah.
when you do the chapters in fundamentals, I went through and did one myself just to see, could I possibly print out something? And no, I could not print anything out that says I took the test. So take a picture of it on your phone, either email it to us or post it to my IoT just to show us that you accomplished it.
What was that for again?
When you read out of the fundamentals book, or yeah, I think you only have fundamentals as your sections.
Are you talking about the video enrichment and the application exercises?
Yeah, the little application exercises will give you a little grade, but I have no way to print it out.
Okay.
We had hoped, being on the ATI system, that everything would be accessible, all your time spent and your grades and all that. But for those particular things, the chapters in the ebook, unfortunately, they are not accessible.
Okay.
So do keep track of what you did. Like Dan said, the times will be allotted to you, but just take a picture of your little test grade so that we can have verification of it.
Okay, and if we're kind of slow readers or like to have certain areas that we pay more attention to, we read, multiple times. Is there a time allotment for that, or we just get the flat time?
Yeah, they want us to have just flat times. We kind of padded it just a little bit though, so it should sort of balance out.
Okay, and just like all the other ATI modules, the reading will save our score, yeah?
No, it doesn't save your score on.
I meant in the book. Like it
But
saves where you were
in
at.
the ebook, I was able to go back because when I took the test the first time, I didn't do very good on it because I didn't read the chapter. I just wanted to see if I could print out a grade. So I did go back to, if they're kind of tricky. They're multiple choice ones sometimes, and if you don't read the chapter, you get them wrong. So I was able to continue to go back in there. So yes, the grade is in there somewhere. I just can't print the darn thing out.
I guess I'm confused as to what ebook we should be reading for this.
It should specify on your outline fundamentals. So it says PN fundamentals, and then go down and find the one that says PN.
In 2017. If I can get into my ATI, I can show you. It's not. Oh, there we go.
So under the PNE book, the only chapter I did the video enrichment for was the infection control. Is that correct? Because that's what's on the outline.
So out of the Fundamentals of Nursing Review Module 9.0, that's the ebook we should be reading.
Yes.
Thank you.
Fundamentals chapter 11.
Can you guys see that on your screen?
Yes.
Okay. I forgot what I was going in there for.
PNE book.
Let me go to student view. This is hard for us because we have to learn two separate systems. I wish they were both the same. Oops. Is it under? Under learn. It's in the PNE book ebook library. And then all of yours, I think, is under fundamentals. So you click on there. Should be ebooks. Shouldn't be ebooks video, should it? Oh.
Yeah, if you click into that on the right.
Yeah, after you get into the ebooks, it goes to fundamentals, and then you go to the chapter 11,
Okay.
infection control for this week. And if you hit this little arrow right here, that'll open it up to where you can read it. And then go down. And they have to do the, you can actually open this up to where you can see the whole page view of that. It's kind of the loop of infection. Yeah, it's down here at the bottom.
Can you click on your active learning scenario? I'm wondering if mine, because I was using a tablet, is different. It didn't give me like, I don't know, an event to go through. It was, yeah, just that. Okay, so we just screenshot that to show that we did it. And
No, not this one. There should be, if it says video enrichment, then it was somewhere in the middle of your reading that
Links.
I don't really care if they do the
Yeah.
they can do the active learning thing.
There's the answers.
okay, so you basically want our quiz
So
scores.
it's the one that tells you application exercises, which follows that active learning. So this guy right here, it's
Okay,
usually about 5 little question things to go through, and then it'll score you.
yeah.
So 75% is still passing, which means you have to have 4 out of 5 of them correct.
Mhm.
And some of them are multiple choice and makes it kind of tricky.
Did you want a screenshot of the video too, or just knowing that we did the quiz?
Just when you do the quiz, just take
Yeah.
a shot of the
When you get
score.
when you get to the end of this, it'll say results, or it'll give you the results, and you can do a screenshot of that, and you want it uploaded to my IoT, or what do you want?
On our homework file? My
Yeah.
file? Okay.
In my IoT, or you can email it to us. Either way.
Thank you.
All right. All right. Any more questions on?
And I'm sorry, my computer was cutting out when you said that. So the test, are we just taking it and sending you a picture of our first score, or are we going until we get above 75?
Until you get above 75.
Yeah. And
Okay.
it tells you the answers. There's a little square there that says answers and my answer and the answers. And so, and it gives you the rationale why they are what they are. So you can take it, it's 5 questions, and you can take it as many times as you need to, but go in and read the rationales. And I went in, and some of them I had to take 2 or 3 times because I'm not that smart with some of this stuff. So, because you have to know exactly what they want you to say on the select all that apply. So I had to go back in a few times. So we gave you enough time to where you should be able to accomplish it in the time. And I'm a very slow reader, and so you should have plenty of time to. Some of them we tacked on 5 or 10 minutes on to how long it took us. Okay. Well, let me see if I can get out
I
of
have
here.
another question while you're doing navigating. So the test under ATI practice for professional boundaries was new to me from the Zoom, what you just said. Are we supposed to do one on conflict resolution and red blood cells and white blood cells as well?
No, we were going to do that on the Zoom today. We were going to do it in person, but we may have to bump that to next time we get on the day that we get together. Right now, there's no testing or anything on those except in class. But you get time for viewing the PowerPoints and that sort of thing.
And that's going to be included in the document you're going to upload this evening?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, so to go in and take that test for professional boundaries, and you can take it as many times. You have to get a 75 or above. Why isn't that coming up? That's where I am.
I think I might have saw it on the second or third row, the third one in from the left. Oh, yep. Uh-oh. Becoming, never mind. I just saw the word professional.
Yeah, it'll say professional boundaries. And no, I don't see it. I'll have to see if it's under the apply screen. Oh, this is all. This is where you go in and get into. Let's see. Health assess is the main one. Real life, PN, med surge, the communicator. Any of these that you get into and want to do, like the communicator, there's 20 modules there that you can do. Real life. Oh, you can't. Yeah, you can't really do those. Just get on the real life med surge. And there's diabetes, heart failure, kidney disease, pneumonia, and UTI. So it shouldn't, but it will give you a score on whether you're really good, whether you're satisfactory, or whether you need improvement. So, and you can do these. I'll show you. You can do these as. Uh-oh. It's not letting me in. Not letting me in. I wonder why my. Can somebody get on this part and see? Oh, not real life. On the test, and see if you have a professional boundaries card come up.
I already tried earlier and no.
I did not see it.
It was on there before.
I don't know. Let me go back to the. Somebody. Let's do it this week. Yeah, so mainly the things to work on this week is infection control. And then get into health assess and work on, do the introductory and start working on a few of those scenarios. And you can spend a lot of time in there. Only thing to remember is if you get up and walk away from your computer, it's going to shut you off.
For the nurse's touch, did you say for learn or for which part is it in?
Let me get back into, I think it's in apply, yeah. I was trying to find the assessments, that's one.
I just found it in Learn. There's several nurses touch.
Yeah. So week 3, there's you'll see, you should have a little card that says BBP exam. And then, oh, it's probably because I haven't activated it yet. These you can't get into because they're proctored. Oh, let me see if, oh, this is open. It should be under PE. Professional boundaries quiz. And I haven't opened that up yet, so I'll go do that. Today's the 18th. Okay. I'll have to look at.
Now I
think
see
did
it.
most of it. I think I did most of it. Yeah. Oh no, I didn't. I don't have access to a lot of that. So. I thought we were going to do. Yeah, I thought we were going to do that in class. So we have a bunch of papers that we have to have you sign. So we'll do that in class. I think I put the syllabus and the outline on my IoT. Anyway, I'm gonna save this now.
Where is that at? I'm having a hard time finding it.
This is going to be under test, and I'm gonna.
It's there. I just looked. It's
I
under
see
the
it in there
test.
now.
You found it now?
Yeah.
You see the BBP quiz? That one
Yes.
should be
It says
available too.
practice assessment.
Yeah. That's so
Okay.
you can do it more than once and we don't have to be there to watch you. So it's an open book
right.
quiz. So it's an open book quiz, so take notes.
Okay, Dan and Lori, I noticed that there's a PowerPoint on our outline for the class that we were supposed to have in class today. That's nursing job description 1887. Are you guys gonna upload that, or are we gonna watch it in the Zoom?
We'll do it next on next week's Zoom too. Yeah.
So it's just something that we put together because it's interesting to see how things have changed from 1887. Well, that's true. I suppose we could do that.
We'll do it real quick.
Here it is.
Oh, I got this right away. Okay.
Can you all see it?
Yes.
Yeah, I came across this probably a couple of years ago and finally put it in a PowerPoint about a year ago. And so we share this usually on the first day of class because it's just kind of fun to see the differences. So, yep. So this was task number 1. Daily sweep and mop the floors of your ward. He's going the wrong direction on us. Dust the patient's furniture and windowsills. I think that was the third one, not the second one. Oh, okay. So maintain an even temperature in your ward by bringing in a scuttle of coal for the day's business. Light is important to observe the patient's condition. Therefore, each day fill kerosene lamps, clean chimneys, and trim wicks.
You guys all prepared?
Isn't that a Nightingale thing?
Yes.
Florence Nightingale.
Nurses' notes are important in aiding your physician's work. Make your pens carefully. You may whittle nibs to your individual taste. Feather.
We can't hear you, Dan.
You're not close enough, they can't hear you. He was just explaining how they used to trim the feathers to make the pens.
Thank God we don't have to do that now.
Oh, yeah. Each nurse on duty will report every day at 7 a.m. and leave at 8 p.m. except on the Sabbath, on which day she will be off from 12 noon to 2 p.m. Graduate nurses in good standing with the director of nurses will be given an evening off each week for courting purposes, or 2 evenings a week if you go regularly to church. Each nurse should lay aside from each payday a goodly sum of her earnings for her benefits during her declining years, so that she will not become a burden. For example, if you earn $30 a month, you should set aside 15. Any nurse who smokes, uses liquor in any form, gets their hair done at a beauty shop, or frequents dance halls will give the director of nurses good reason to suspect her worth, intentions, and integrity. The nurse who performs her labors and serves her patients and doctors faithfully and without fault for a period of 5 years will be given an increase by the hospital administration of 5 cents a day. So that is why we share that, because it does not even mention one thing about patient care.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So glad we're not in those times.
That's something we think it's bad now, right?
Anybody have any conflicts like that? We all have conflicts from time to time, driving down the road. How do you respond when somebody cuts in front of you? Hand signals, like turning left and right? I don't know. How do we
bite my tongue.
respond? How do you respond when you have a conflict? You get into people's face and tell them off? Like these guys are doing the right thing. They're sharing information, communicating, that sort of thing. First thing to do in a conflict is being prepared. Cool off. If you're angry, don't. If you're angry, don't. You have to take time out if you're angry. So you want to act and not react. Choose carefully what you do. First, you identify the source of the conflict. What's really going on? If it's the other person being all disturbed and upset, they might have had a bad day, got in a fight with their significant other before they came to work. You never know. Give them the benefit of the doubt. Look beyond the incident. Is this something that occurs all the time, or is it, is this a isolated incident? Determine your own responsibility. I had a boss that says it has to be a pretty thin pancake not to have two sides. So find out what you could have done differently. That's the only way you can change somebody else is change how you deal with them. If you're going to say anything about the situation, be prepared for with ideas or solutions that will work for both of you. If it goes beyond settling it right then, don't wait. Request a meeting as soon as possible. Find a quiet, private, neutral place where you can meet, not get interrupted. So you don't want to do it in a cafeteria, somewhere like that. Share your feelings. How did it make you feel when the other person did what they did? Or depends on, and it doesn't matter whichever side you're on. Use iMessages. I felt this way when this happened. They can't dispute how you feel. That's you, and that puts it all on you rather than blaming them, which never works. When they're talking, be sure and active listening. Don't interrupt them with and finish their sentences for them, or answer the questions that you don't know what is yet. Wait until they finish, and then you can say what you have to say. It's always good to restate what you believe the other person said, because sometimes I've had a lot of years of nursing and a lot of patients, and This is one of the techniques I used when I was discharging patients, and frequently what they thought I said wasn't what I meant at all, and so I had to rephrase what I was saying to get my point across. So, you know, just give them a chance. We call it a teach back. Can you tell me what I just shared with you to make sure I know that you're getting, you know, that I'm communicating effectively. Oops. Identify problems perceived by all the involved parties. Can't just go on what you perceive. You have to figure out what everybody else is seeing as well. Each problem, you want to identify solutions, and it should be one that everybody agrees on. We used to do what we called interest-based problem solving and consensus-based resolutions. And so we'd put a bunch of the ideas up on the board with solutions, and we'd write down, everybody would offer solutions and that sort of thing. And then as a group, we'd go up and put stickers on the ones that we wanted. And so as a group, we would choose the ones that everybody else, you know, the majority wanted. Try to find common solutions. Take responsibility for your actions. If it was perceived by the other person that you did something, you know, figure out what it was that they saw that was causing that, and take responsibility for that. People respect you a lot more than if you say, I didn't do it, it wasn't my fault. You know, accept some sort of responsibility for it and try to work it out. Again, find solutions that satisfy both people. Agree on a plan of action. Affirm and forgive. Make sure that you don't take it home and come back next week and say, they did this to me. Can't tell you how many times I come back to work and had to listen to that kind of stuff. And tell them, you know, I'd look forward to working with you in the future and as a team member, and maybe this can help us grow and be a better team. Oops. And thank the other person for resolving the conflict in a professional way rather than confrontational. And that's my whole video. Did you want to go here? Let's see. Let's go back to the labs. Which lab was it? RBCs? Here we are. We're zooming. Hi guys. They can hear you. You had to listen to Sean before you hit me? Holy cow, I'm surprised you guys aren't asleep. I usually fall asleep in the first 30 seconds when he comes in to talk to me. So anyway, I'll quit being so ornery. Red blood cells and platelets. There's a little quiz that goes along with these. We'll work on them in class next time we get together. You get all this. I should let you do this. Blood consists of 3 types of cells suspended in fluid called plasma. You have white blood cells, and they're used mainly for infection control. Red blood cells carry oxygen and that sort of thing. And platelets. Anybody know what platelets do?
Clotting.
Platelets are involved in clotting. Thrombocytes are red blood cells that clump together, and we have what we call white clots, and those are platelets. 2 different clotting mechanisms there. They're produced and mature primarily in the bone marrow, long bones. RBCs are released into the bloodstream as they mature. Lifespan of an RBC is 121 days. So there's it's not an enzyme. It's a erythropoietin is the it's not a chemical. When my brain went dead on me. Erythropoietin is I think it's a hormone that causes the red blood cells. Your body senses whether it has enough red blood cells, and if it doesn't, there's erythropoietin that causes the bone marrow to make new blood cells. They replace. We lose them by, they get old and they fall apart, or we get cut and we lose them that way. These are the labs that the values if you go and get a blood draw. Hemoglobin, HGB, 13.6 to 17.2 in men and 12 to 15 in women. And that's basically the hemoglobin attached to the red blood cells. And that's how we test the oxygen carrying capacity of the blood. Hematocrit, this is a percentage of red blood cells in the blood, and that tells us whether a person's getting dehydrated or they had different blood diseases that cause too much or too little production of red blood cells. The red blood cell count itself is 4.3 to 5.9 for men, 3.5 to 5.0 for women. Oops. Retic, 0.5 to 1.5. Mean cell volume, MCV is 82 to 96. MCH is 27 to 33. The concentration of the mean corpuscle is 33 to 37. The distribution width of RBC is 11.5 to 14.5. Hematocrit determines how much of the volume of your blood is red blood cells. And that is, we went over that earlier. Hemoglobin is protein that transport oxygen and glucose through the body. Normal range is 13 to 16 for men and 12 to 15 for women. And you guys can watch this you guys can go through and read all the funny little boxes. So if you have this is one of the diseases, polycythemia vera, is when the bone marrow makes too much red blood cells. And so you'd have a real high volume of red blood cells. Oops. Decrease in plasma levels result in increased volume of RBCs to plasma. So if you didn't take very much fluids in and your plasma levels are down, then that would cause your value there to go up. COPD, red blood cell production increases to compensate for the decreased oxygen in the blood. Same thing with high altitude. There's less oxygen in the air when you get higher up on the mountains, and so if you're up there for a while, if you live up at high elevations, your red blood cell production will increase to compensate for that. Doesn't happen overnight. It takes a period of time. Decrease in RBCs. When you have too much volume, you're getting overhydrated. Chemotherapy kills both good and bad cells, so we can lose them that way. If you don't get enough iron, you don't get hemoglobin and red blood cells. That's what carries the oxygen. Leukemia. There's different kinds of leukemia. Some produces too much white blood cells, and ones where the others get killed off, but they're not kicked out. You want to take over?
We're switching places. Dan's got to leave. So there are different types of hemoglobin. So hemoglobin A is the one that is most prevalent in the body. So 95 to 98% of the body is made of hemoglobin A. And it also has breakdowns. So hemoglobin A1 and hemoglobin A2. And then hemoglobin F is a fetal one. So it's produced by the fetus during pregnancy and helps transport oxygen to the growing fetus. So of that 98% of hemoglobin A that's type 1, it also breaks down. So hemoglobin A1, A1B, or A1A, A1B, and A1C. And that will be a little bit more important when we talk about blood glucose levels and that kind of thing. But just to briefly talk about that, glucose does attach to the A1C type of hemoglobin. So it is then termed glycosylated, excuse me, I have a little froggy throat. And that glycosylated hemoglobin makes up about 2/3 of the hemoglobin that has glucose attached to it. So other tests that are done on the red blood cell count, one is called a mean corpuscular volume, and that just tells what the average size of your red blood cell is. So it has a fancy calculation. You don't have to memorize anything, just so that you're semi-familiar with things. So calculated by dividing the hematocrit by the red cell count. If they are bigger than normal, the score is higher and could be indicative of something like a low vitamin B12 or folate level. And if the red blood cells are small, it could be a type of anemia that's going on with you. So normal ranges run 80 to 95 on that one. So mean corpuscular hemoglobin and mean corpuscular hemoglobin concentration are two other tests that are done. So the mean corpuscular hemoglobin level refers to the average amount of hemoglobin that's found in each of the red blood cells. And though it's very similar, the MCHC, they sound similar, but the MCHC is the average weight of the hemoglobin based on the volume of red blood cells. And so they both just kind of give an idea of how healthy the hemoglobin in the blood cell is. So MCH results tend to mirror the MCV results. That's because the bigger red blood cell generally contains more hemoglobin, while the smaller red blood cell obviously is going to have less. The MCHC being a calculation of the amount of hemoglobin per unit of volume in a single red cell. So the MCHC measurement takes the volume of the size of the red cell into account, while the MCH does not. And these are a lot of fancy big words. You don't have to memorize anything. So don't get all in a tizzy about any of this stuff we're telling you. This is a familiarization for you guys so that when you go out into your places that you're going to be for your, when we actually finally get out to care centers or whatever again, when you hear these terms, you're gonna go, okay, that's part of the red blood cell count and it means something. Like I say, you don't have to memorize these things. So reasons that the MCH levels might be high, things like macrocytic anemia. So symptoms that the patient might have: tiredness, paleness, fast heartbeats, things like brittle nails, brain fog, poor concentration, confusion, memory loss, any of those things that would be typical for someone whose oxygen levels aren't staying up there because their blood cells aren't carrying them very well. Could also potentially have things like digestive issues, so appetite, weight loss, sort of thing. A low MCH level could be a microcytic type of anemia, so low amounts of iron in the blood can cause this. And the body uses iron to make the hemoglobin, so if the body runs out of iron, then you have an iron deficiency anemia, and so the MCH levels obviously would be low. Things like celiac disease, diets that are not very high in iron content, then you don't have enough to be able to create enough in the body. So your MCH levels will be low. So you will find then with people who've had things like gastric surgeries, they're not absorbing nutrients as well, so they are likely to have low MCH levels, and they often end up getting B12 shots because of the inability to absorb some of the nutrients. So women also who are having an acute amount of blood loss become anemic because they are losing too much blood. So someone with a macrocytic anemia, so if their levels are high, they might have deficiency in folic acid, could have liver disease, vitamin B12 deficiencies, and people who've had serious burns can show elevated levels of corpuscular hemoglobin concentration. So why would the doctor order the test? Well, those very things we just talked about. So is the patient fatigued or feeling weak? Have they had prolonged infections? Are they bleeding a lot? Having a lot of bruising? Is there some noticeable inflammation? And the doctor might want to take a look at those things. And so low MCHC levels, those being under 28%, again, low blood loss, too little iron, having anemia. Another test that you might see on a red blood cell count is the cell distribution width, or RDW. So it's an indication of the red cell volume. Because the red cells carry oxygen from your lungs to every part of your body, anything outside of a normal range of that could indicate that there's some kind of problem, and that will then in turn affect the oxygen concentrations in your body.
Ellie, can I have the remote, please? Mama, see?
Reticulocyte counts. So the reticulocyte is an immature red blood cell, so it does not have a nucleus. But it has this kind of granular look to it, so that's why it's called reticulated appearance. So indirectly, it's a measure of red blood cell production, and it would increase, obviously, during red cell production. So we talked briefly earlier about platelets, thrombocytes. I think that Dan was mentioning that. So the platelets or thrombocytes are these special cell fragments that help in blood clotting. So an excess of that obviously would lead to excess clotting, and not having enough is going to lead to excess bleeding. Range is fairly large, like 140,000 to 450,000 is the normal values. They are the smallest of the blood cells, can only be seen under a microscope, and they're shaped like little plates, which is how they get their name, so platelets. But thrombocytes is the more approved medical name for them now. So blood vessels will send out signals when they become damaged, and the platelet gets that signal, and they respond by coming to that site, and they become active in their role. They start creating fibrin mesh, and the platelets are used to form the clots when there's bleeding. Fibrinogen is synthesized in the liver, and it's converted by thrombin into fibrin, and so you get all this stuff going on to help stop the clotting. So low blood platelet count results obviously in reduced clotting. So platelet synthesis is regulated by thrombopoietin. It's the hormone which is produced by the liver and the kidneys. If you have changes in your platelet levels, obviously you're going to have things like hemorrhagic anemia, or it can be caused by hemorrhagic anemia, things like trauma, surgeries, decreased production. So if you have aplastic anemias, leukemias, alcohol can interfere with production of platelets, iron deficiency, and B12 and folate deficiencies, obviously. So thrombocytosis, it's a medical term that says you have too many platelets. There are two kinds of that. So the primary or essential one is abnormal cells in the bone marrow causing an increase in platelets, and the secondary being that it's caused by an ongoing condition or disease like anemia, cancer, inflammation, or infection. So another test we just want to note that might be done often in conjunction with the red blood cell count is your sedimentation rate. So this one is done by placing the blood sample in a tube, and what they do is let it settle to the bottom, and then they take this measure from how much is white cells and how much is red cells, or how much is plasma. So they're looking to see that. So they then are looking to, like, for things like inflammation, the cells can become sort of clumpy, and they are denser than individual cells, and so they might settle more often, so or more quickly. And so what is the rate that they settle, and that is how they determine that sedimentation rate. So let's see. I think that's pretty much it. So take that screen down. So anyway, I just want to emphasize, don't have to memorize any of that stuff. It's information for you. Feel free to, look at the videos over again. There is a second video up on the resources that Dan put on, or references or homework or wherever. On white cells, we're hoping that one of these days we'll get together again and actually see your faces face to face. We'll be able to maybe do some of this in class. It's a whole lot nicer when we can do that. So far we have not had that luck. So any questions about anything? I know that's a lot of information to throw at you in a Zoom meeting.
I do have a question. At our last Zoom meeting, we said we were waiting to take the bloodborne pathogen until we were in class and then taking it after class. Are we still waiting, or are we just taking that?
Well, unfortunately, since they canceled the class on us, you can now just go ahead and go and do that. It would have been nice to be able to do it in class rather than have to have you do it online, but now you get to do it online again. Thank you, COVID-19.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. What was that?
So just
We
go
get-
ahead and get on the My ATI system and take that test in there.
That was the bloodborne pathogens one.
Yeah, the bloodborne pathogens one is posted for you.
Okay.
And the conflict, professional boundaries.
And
And as far as the lab highlights quiz, we were all supposed to do that in person. So do we need to turn this in at all, or is it just practice?
We were going to do it in class, just in practice. Last quarter, we did go ahead and grade them. This quarter, we were debating which way to do it. So I thought if we just did them in class, which we used to do, was just do them in class. But last quarter was kind of crazy, and we needed something to make grades with, so we tried grading that, which is great. So at this point, no, it's not required. But if you choose to do it when you're going through the video, that'll help you retain the information. So it's a good little study guide for you is what it is right now. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry, just one other question, since this last week has been crazy and we've all had 10,000 questions on timesheets. Who do we send that to? Like, are we supposed to send them in by Monday?
That's my understanding, is that you turn them in on Monday to Sue.
And it's everything we do for this class only, correct?
Yeah, I think you're keeping track of each class individually, which is kind of
on timesheets though, it's just this class.
So with the other classes, well, I guess you probably don't have to do timesheets for the other classes, do
No,
you?
we don't.
All right, so it's just your labs then. So.
And then I had emailed mine to a Karen, because that's who emailed me asking for it.
Oh.
Or sorry, Susan Hunter. So that is Sue, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Sue is the secretary. So she's the one that keeps track of that stuff for us right now.
Then are we doing classroom classes beginning next week or the week after?
I think that because our schedule is every other week, that we are still going to have to do Zoom next week. If that changes, we'll let you know. But as far as I know, we'll be Zoom again next week and finally back in the building on week 4.
Okay.
And were we going to do a different Zoom time next week, since we got an email saying we will be resuming in class next week for other classes?
Yeah, so some of you will be here in the morning and some will be here in the afternoon, correct?
Correct.
So we're going to do a Zoom in the morning and a Zoom in the afternoon, so for opposite times. So those who are in the morning can have an afternoon and vice versa.
Okay.
What time will the morning Zoom be then? Because I'm in the afternoon class.
Okay, and that's a good question. So for those of you who are morning, will be available in the morning, is like 9 or 10, or what would be the best time for you to do that?
10.
10 works well for you guys?
Yeah, 10
Okay.
works.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we'll plan on doing a 10, and then for the afternoon people, what works best for you?
I personally have to drive back to Portland, so a noon would not work.
Would not
I
work,
have to drive
okay, okay. So would you be better off with like
have a drive.
Okay. Would 1 or 2 be better for any of the rest of you?
2. I
2
mean,
would
2
be better.
better.
Okay, so if we do a 10 in the morning and a 2 in the afternoon
And what day was that?
on Thursday
Okay.
next week. So.
And will it still be this Zoom, the same ID and password?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions, concerns?
And that Zoom time is going to be set for the next Thursdays, all Thursdays. when
So
we're
yeah,
not in.
for the every others that we can't meet, we will make those the permanent times unless something else comes up. But at this point, that's what we will plan on for you guys. Okay. Anything else for all of you?
I don't think so.
Okay. Remember to put your Zoom meeting on your timesheet.
So we'll do an hour 15 is what we put.
Technically, you should have had a 10-minute break in there too. So I think we should probably call this in at least an hour and 25 minutes or so.
Thank you.
All righty. Thanks all for coming in, and sure hope we get to see a face-to-face soon.
Yeah, thank you.
All righty. Take care. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye-bye.